Hello and welcome to our continuing coverage of the ceasefire in Gaza. Displaced Palestinians are heading home to the north of the Strip after 15 months of forced displacement by the Israeli military. Now, on the left of screen, you can see live scenes from Al-Rashid Road. In the past 2 hours, Palestinians have been returning on foot through this route. On the right hand of the screen, you can see people at Salah Al Deen Road. Vehicles are expected to be able to pass through this hour along this street here. It comes after tens of thousands of Palestinians spent a second night on the street waiting for Israeli forces to let them cross the Netzarim corridor. They have been desperate to return home, even if all they find there is rubble. Well, the Netzarim corridor was opened after Qatar, a key mediator between Israel and Hamas, told Israeli media the group will hand over Arbel, Yehud and 2 other captives before Friday. Well, first of all, we're going to go to Hani Mahmoud, who joins us from Al-Rashid Road, just south of the Netzarim corridor. And as we were saying, Hani, people have been streaming north for the last 2 hours. Can you just give us an idea of the sense of celebration and relief there as you're talking to people as they try and return home?
An overwhelming scene of happiness and excitement right here, half a mile away from Netzarim Juncture. We see an ongoing flow of people in the past couple hours, from starting at 7 a.m. in the morning. This is the designated hour in which people were allowed to cross to the northern part of the Strip. And so far, just apart from what we have covered so far, there are 2 things that caught my attention here. That many people are coming from northern Gaza to the south, and when we stopped one of them and asked, he's here looking for his family, searching for his family and kids in the tent camps, and we'll try to meet with them and take them back to their home, the northern part of the Strip, and maybe set up another tent there after 15 months of not seeing each other at all. And this is not the first time we're seeing this. There are many people by the hundreds who haven't seen their loved ones and relatives, their kids and their wives, their husbands for the past 15 months. We're also seeing another important element. People, because of the phobia of displacement, are carrying with them some basic supplies, bag of flours and cooking oil and the cooking gas, because they know they're going back to an area that has not seen any of them. The aided trucks in the past months, it completely drained and depleted. So this is important for them to go back at least with some of the basic elements. And you know, Tom, there's nothing better than getting the reaction of people about this. So we're joined by a displaced person who's going back to his home.
Welcome back. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking to me. I congratulate all the Palestinians and Gazans for returning home. How do you feel? I cannot describe my feelings. It's mixed pain, grief mixed with joy. We are coming back to the bitter memories as we have lost many loved ones. Many have fallen, thousands injured. Our joy is mixed with grief and pain. However, we are very delighted that we are going back home. That's why we are chanting, chanting in joy. We are going back to our homes, even in ruins. My grandfather told me in the past, it says, when you're home, home sweet home, whatever. Currently speaking, I am a resident of Beit Hanun, to the far north of Gaza. My home is flattened, yet I'm going back to the area where I was raised, and I have all the memories. Many of the areas have turned into scorched land. What are your plans? I believe the whole world have come to know that the Palestinians are people of resolve, steadfastness. We have been through lots of bad and bitter experiences. We are going back adamant to rebuild our homes. What happened will not dent our resolve. Our resolve is undented. We will rebuild our homeland.
So as we heard from many of the people that we talked to, Palestinians are left without any options but to stay on their land and show much of their resilience. What we just heard from this displaced individual, he's aware of the challenges ahead of him. And there's a sense of relief, a sense of hope, but is there also the uncertainty and at the same time the challenges ahead that, as he described it, he's going back to an area that doesn't pretty much turn into a wasteland, a devastation, but the resilience poses itself now in a way of that they're going to rebuild their life, and returning to the northern part of the Strip is the first step forward to rebuild shattered lives caused by the genocidal war in the past 15 months.
Yeah, Hani, can you just give us an idea if most people are planning on returning permanently now, or this will just be the first trip back of many that they make? Because as we've been hearing, there is so little there in the north for them once they do get there. Lack of shelter, lack of food, water, medical aid, all of those sorts of things that we've seen has been such an issue in the north. So is this a permanent move for most people, or are they going to see what is there and then make plans alternatively?
Tom, we talked to the few people yesterday about this because we know there are many challenges ahead of them in the northern part of the Strip. The fact that they're going to the areas with no homes, no basic necessities, infrastructure, public facilities, no schools, no hospitals. It's going to be very difficult for this overwhelmingly large number of displaced people going back to their homes. So it's going to take the aggregate efforts of international supports and locals coming together to provide much needed assistance to people in order to support their resilience and existence in the northern part and Gaza City. Let's not forget also the southern part of the Strip that's seen much of the devastation. So again, we have a scenario that already repeated itself. Many people here, they said, we're going to check and see if we are able to stay near the house. If it's bombed, if it's all gone, then we probably go back and set up a tent in this area. The absence of homes here is a real problem for people. A house is more of a home for people. This is where people feel safe, they feel comfortable with their loved ones and relatives. The genocide, the deliberate destruction of Gaza was done in a way to make people feel that they don't belong into that area, was done in a way to push people out of their home and eventually expel them as Gaza evolved in the past months into a quite uninhabitable place with the destruction of hospitals, schools and homes and entire neighborhoods. But again, we're seeing much of the resilience. People are going back. This is still morning time. It's gonna be interesting to see how people are going to react by the end of the day, as ahead of them they're going to spend their first night in 15 months in their areas. I'm not gonna say their homes because most of them are pile of rubbles now, but more in their areas, and maybe they will make a decision about whether to continue staying there or not. Some of the efforts already been made to build tent camps in areas in Gaza that after it cleared up from the rubbles. But again, is that going to be sustainable? Is that part of a larger scale effort? It's still not clear what's going to happen. As of this moment, everyone is caught by the fact that it's the beginning of rebuilding, the beginning of getting their life back on track after 15 months of devastation and misery and agony that filled the air everywhere. Today, different facial expression, different reaction that dominated the scene.
Hani, thank you so much. No doubt we will be talking to you throughout the day there, Hani Mahmoud on Al-Rashid Road. I'm going to bring in Ibrahim Al Khalili, who joins us from Gaza City, which is north of the Netzarim corridor. And as we've seen, people have been desperate to see what they have to return to in the north. Can you just give us a bit of an idea of what is left for people there now? What will they return to?
Yes, these civilians will return into rubble as the Israeli ground incursion in the northern part of the Gaza Strip destroyed every corner. All the neighborhoods have been invaded by the Israeli military. These hundreds of thousands of Palestinians will return to their partially or completely destroyed. Talking about the areas of northern governor, they have been completely destroyed by the Israeli military. A lot of people here in the north are setting camps, makeshift tents to just welcome or receive the displaced Palestinians. But the question is, are these tents sufficient to receive the large number of displaced Palestinians just arriving to Gaza City and northern governorate? The mass devastation has been unprecedented, but civilians, despite the harsh circumstances and the devastation that they will come back to, they will start to rebuild their lives again, despite all the devastation that took place in Beit Hanun and Jabal refugee camp, Beit Lahia, and in the Shujaiya neighborhood, the Rumal neighborhood. These neighborhoods of the northern Gaza Strip has been partially or completely destroyed. These civilians will come back to check on their home to say if to see if their houses have been completely or partially destroyed, and if they have been completely destroyed, they will set up tents. And we're talking about a total destruction in the general infrastructure and in the pipelines of the northern governorate. These civilians will not sustain the basic necessities of life just to continue living. But I said, despite all these harsh circumstances, these civilians have clinged and hold on into hope that they will rebuild and they come back to see their loved ones and reunite with their loved ones here in the northern part of the strip. I see a lot of people here in the north going to the south just to welcome and receive their loved ones after they have been forcibly displaced from northern governorate. They will see them and reunite with them, and maybe they will go back to northern governorate and start rebuilding again. As I said, the devastation here in the northern part of the strip is unprecedented, and civilians will come back. But what these civilians hold inside their hearts and minds is the resilience. These people have been witnessing horror for more than 15 months of a brutal Israeli war. So now they can take the time finally just to rebuild their destroyed lives again. They cling into hope that they will come back, and just they prefer to stay and come back to their homeland where they belong, and they there where they are deeply rooted in the land here in the northern part of the Gaza Strips. The atmosphere, the general atmosphere here in the north and in the south is filled with joy and happiness as the big return has finally came through, and civilians are keep unfolding and crossing over the Netzarim corridor after the army withdrew from Netzarim corridor, and people are expressing their happiness despite the destruction and the long Israeli war that destroyed every pillar of life. Palestinians can now rebuild and live again. They have the hope and determination just to come back and reunite with their loved ones and to rebuild what was once their home here in northern part of the Gaza Strip. We see the eastern buffer zones. These areas, civilians will not be allowed just to reach these buffer zones. Many civilians tonight will sleep in the open after they got their houses destroyed and they don't have anything left just to stay in. The suffering will continue after the war. Of course, the civilians who have been suffering during the war now will suffer to sustain the basic necessities and to sustain a good place to stay in and live back again here in northern part of the strip. Large number of civilians are now returning to northern part of the strip. We saw on Al-Rashid Street and on Salah Al Deen Street to the east of Gaza City, where thousands of civilians are returning with and donkey carts and the donkey cars and everything. They are returning and they get inspected, and now they can move to Gaza City and northern governorate in hope of rebuilding and reuniting with their loved ones after they have not seen them for more than 15 months of the brutal Israeli war that took place in the besieged Gaza Strip. Now, civilians can take the time just to rebuild their lives and cling to hope that life will continue after this brutal Israeli war that killed thousands of Palestinians and destroyed all neighborhoods of the besieged Gaza Strip. we can see how people are happy and keep unfolding through the main road, Salah Al Deen Road and Al-Rashid Road. This is a historic moment for all Palestinians just to witness this is a historic moment of them returning after 15 months of desperation and forced displacement. Now they can just return to the northern part of the strip. Maybe they set up tents on above their destroyed houses, and they can just breathe the air of their homeland that they have been forcibly displaced from by the Israeli military at the early beginning of this that brutal war that lasted for 15 months. Civilians are happy for this big return of the hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians in southern part of the Gaza Strip. They are hugging now on Al-Rashid Street and meeting and reuniting with their loved ones again. Civilians can't believe that this came true, but finally the civilians returned and reunited with their loved ones. Now they can come back to northern part. And what we don't know about Palestinians is that they have a strong determination inside their minds, and they are very determined people just to continue living despite the harsh circumstances and despite the lack of basic necessities of life, food, water. Maybe the international community will help in humanitarian aid just to be provided for these desperate civilians to continue living after what they have been witnessing during the long Israeli war. The forced displacement from one place to another now has ended, and now they can just rebuild their lives in northern part of the Gaza Strip. People are excited and happy as a large number is keep unfolding and people keep crossing over the Netzarim corridor, making it all the way to the Gaza Strip. Some civilians here in the northern part of the Gaza Strip are going south just to meet again with their loved ones, and they are welcoming each other. Welcoming banners have been set on Al-Rashid Street, welcoming the displaced Palestinians who have been forcibly displaced. And the rebuilding process will continue after the return of these Palestinians who have been, like I said, forcibly displaced from southern part to from southern part of the Gaza Strip. Now the atmosphere here in northern part of the strip is filled with joy, undescribable feelings expressed by civilians here in the north after they met and reunited with their loved ones after they have not seen them in this very long time. The situation here in northern part of the strip is very vibrant as people are happy despite the destruction and despite the destruction of all pillars of life and the lack of basic necessities and the collapsed health system in all the Gaza Strip. People cling and to hope and to continue living and rebuilding their lives again. We can see the smiles on people's faces returning from the southern part of the strip. Crowds of civilians are meeting again with their loved ones. They have been waiting this moment for so long as this historic moment finally has been uh, reached and came true after the brutal war that took place in the besieged Gaza Strip. Also, in terms of rebuilding the northern governorate, civilians will also set up tents in these areas and live again. These people these people are having a good resilience, and they will continue living despite the harsh circumstances that they have been going through during the Israeli war that destroyed every aspect of life here in the besieged Gaza Strip.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. As always, Ibrahim Al Khalili, who is in Gaza City for us. Thank you. Well, Tareq Abu Azzoum has more from Salah Al Deen Road. Vehicles are expected to be able to pass through this way later.
I'm right now on Salah Al Deen Road in the central areas of the Gaza Strip, and at the background, long queues of cars, donkey carts and trucks that are loaded with furniture for Palestinian displaced families waiting desperately to return back to the north of the Strip. The journey will start just after 2 hours from now in order to be reunited again with their beloved ones. And at the end of that road is the Netzarim corridor, where these cars and trucks will be militarily inspected by private security companies. Civilians here are quite happy and they are anxiously waiting to return back to the north of the Strip, as this journey has been long awaited for many displaced families who have witnessed different sorts of hardships and unrelenting military genocide over the course of the past 15 months. Tareq Abu Azzoum, Al Jazeera, from the closest point to Netzarim corridor, Palestine.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.